Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Squad Room, the podcast devoted to creating and optimizing a healthy and, probably more importantly, fulfilling life for first responders all around the world. I'm your host, Garrett Teslam, a sergeant for a sheriff's department here in Southern California. And on the show, I talk to experts in a variety of fields looking for those force multipliers that I can apply to my own life. I want to make myself and you happier and healthier so we can tackle these challenging careers we have with energy and focus. And the entire purpose of this podcast is to make myself better and let you listen in on the conversations that I'm having and to try and share what I'm learning with you. Before we get to the interview, I want to remind you that you can go and get more information on this episode, including show notes and links, by going to thesquadroom.net. And you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Squad Room. We had to take an unexpected break. You might have noticed. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. I don't think I'm that important. But maybe some of you noticed that we had to take a couple weeks off. We had some scheduling conflicts, and then I, of course, got sick and lost my voice last week when we were supposed to have our guest on. Today's guest couldn't talk. Just couldn't do it. So we had to reschedule and had to push it a week. I've been good in the first half of this year, if you have noticed, of an episode every week. Since January, but we had to take a couple weeks off because, that's what happens. Life gets in the way. But our guest today is Adam Reau. Adam's a former Navy SEAL, and he's now and he's also the founder now and the man in charge of O2X.com. Or actually, it's O2X. O2X.com is his website. But Adam's devoted to all he does now is train and teach first responders, fire, EMS, and police. Teaches them on different aspects of human performance. And of course that includes the physical stuff, but also the mental stuff and all the stuff that goes around it. He's got advisors on his board and who come out and instruct that we've had on the show before, like Dr. Kirk Parsley. So it's a good conversation with Adam. We talked to him about the mental aspects of trying to stay on it. That's certainly my challenge right now is keeping the focus. We talk about specific actionable things we can do. With our fitness, we talk about working around shift work, a wide variety of stuff. And really interesting stuff. Adam's a great guy. We got introduced by former guest Kevin Flake, the Green Beret who we had on the show, who had been shot in the hip and almost bled out. So obviously he's in good company. So here we are with Adam Reau of O2X. Adam Reau, thanks for being on the show. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it.
So I wanted to dive into why you're on the show. And I think you have an interesting background and then a progression into what you do nowadays. But tell us, take us back to little Adam, but not that little, I guess. But, what have you been doing that got you to this point? Tell us a little bit about who you are. Background-wise,
yeah, sure. For one, thanks for having me on the show. I'm honored to be on, and I appreciate you guys reaching out, and it's something that O2X, we're extremely passionate about, helping tactical athletes, police, fire, military, EMS, Department of Corrections. So anything that we could do to kind of get the word out and kind of help those who help us is in line with our mission. So I appreciate that right up front. Mm-hmm. A little background on myself. I grew up in New Jersey, went to, played sports my entire life, fairly competitive with, mainly baseball, soccer. I wanted to go to a military academy. I was pursuing my dream of serving in the military, and I wanted to get my commission. I wanted to go to a military academy. I wanted to, go down. I wanted to go into the SEAL teams. Is something that I saw. I got familiar with them at a pretty young age, and I saw the values that they had, and the values aligned with my values, and the values that really I grew up with. Kind of instilled by, my mother and father. And so I was lucky enough to get picked up by the Merchant Marine Academy. So I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy. And a little bit of an unconventional route to go into the SEAL teams from there. But you get your commission. Not many people knew that about the Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point. It's one of the 5 federal academies. And, what it kind of gives you the opportunity to do is you go in the Navy, Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. You can stay in the Merchant Marine. So, it's quite a different experience, a breadth of education, pretty hands-on. Looked very interesting to me. And unique that no one ever went to SEALs before from the school, but you can get a commission any branch of service. So I figured why not just great group of people. I could continue to play sports there. I was lucky enough to get picked up my senior year for buds, and I went out to SEAL training when I graduated, and spent about 11 and a half years in the military. I got out of the military and, just transitioning, looking to get back into some education. Social impact, social entrepreneurship was something that I was really passionate about. I knew I was leaving a passion and a dream. I got to live my dream, being in the military and serving in the SEAL teams. And then I was looking for another passion. And I knew from volunteer work, I did a lot of volunteer work with cancer foundations because it kind of directly affected my family. I got into Harvard Kennedy School, and I focused on like social impact, social entrepreneurship, and I went over to the Harvard Innovation Lab, took advantage of a very elective-driven program. I got to take classes at Harvard Business School, MIT. I got to visit like the law school and kind of just see the breadth of education as I was making my transition, which was critical to kind of see what was out there. I started a nonprofit called One Summit right when I got out. It was kind of like my transition project, I would say. It was basically taking children battling cancer and building resilience in those children battling cancer. So we partner them with a Navy SEAL. It's kind of counterintuitive. We induce a little bit more adversity into their life. They already have enough going on. But that program has continued to grow and expand. We actually just did another a climb. So we take them rock climbing, teach them some skills to help them to battle their disease. And, I started with that. But right around the same time, a few months in, I started this company called O2X with a couple close friends. And one of which I was in the military with, another who was also in the SEAL teams, but got out quite a while back. We were all at very interesting transitions from some corporate sector, military service, school, and we came together. And it was either human performance education or a brewery. And we ended up going with the human performance education component. So
I don't know, man. That's a tough call because, especially these days, breweries are definitely popping up. But I would kind of be inclined towards a brewery myself, I guess. So transitions, transitions is kind of a common theme of the show. And I'm curious. You say you lived your dream 11 years in the teams, but I'm curious about what caused you or what inspired you or whatever it was. What was that catalyst for leaving the teams? And was it because you found something new or because you had kind of been there, done that?
It was a tough decision. It really was. It was, one of the toughest decisions in my life to leave something that you absolutely love, like you live in your dream. I wanted to challenge myself and, out in the private sector. I've had very entrepreneurial mindset. My family, my dad started, was in sales his whole life, and he had a very entrepreneurial mindset. Of course, when you're in the military, when you're kicking over, you're trying to see further, faster, and I think that you see a lot of veterans starting their own businesses because they had to be entrepreneurial, they had to be innovative because you kind of have what you have overseas, and you have to solve. You're kicking over stones and seeing problems that there's no solutions for, so you have to do that. So I really wanted to try my hand in entrepreneurship, start my own company. Part of it was family too. I spent a lot of time away, not as much as some of the other guys who've done it for 20, 30 years. I look at some of the enlisted guys that I serve with and, those, when they have 14, 15 combat deployments. So I spent, roughly most of my time outside training, deployed, and was looking to go back to school, and basically a combination of all those things just felt like it was time. Mm-hmm.
So you go out, you end up with a master's in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School of Government, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so now I'm connecting the dots to how Kevin Fleck, our guest from, I forget which episode, but Green Beret, who got dual degrees from MIT and Harvard at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know about guys like that, I mean, you make us look bad.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that from a guy who's got a academy commission and then 11 years in the teams and a Harvard grad say the same thing that I think when I think, oh my gosh, how on earth does he accomplish? He's a fantastic guy, and I'm glad that he connected us up. So So you go against your better judgment about the brewery and you decide to open O2X with some friends. But tell us about what O2X is, because that's what the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so at O2X, we're revolutionizing human performance. So, we have an education program that trains tactical athletes to not only get to peak performance, but the real part is sustainability of peak performance over time. A professional athlete, a football player, you talk about an average career is like 3.3 years. You have a tactical athlete, whether it's police, fire, military. I mean, you're talking about a 30-year career, and there's a lot of things associated with. There's, shift work and sleep disturbances. There's stress management. There's nutrition component and energy management. There's things on cognitive function. Building resilience, conditioning, proper injury prevention. So all these things tied in together. And, I always wanted a full curriculum to understand the why behind what we were doing. So, it's just the principle of, teach someone to fish, they're, instead of catching the fish for them. That is, the foundation. You understand why hydration is important, how much to fuel, or how much you need to eat for optimal energy, or how they sleep and shift work, impact your performance. Like, understanding that why was always very curious to me. And we basically whittled our experiences down. We learned from some great people, learned from people that are best in practice in their field, formed a group of about 40 specialists, and put a curriculum together that has made a significant impact in the fire service, but also police and some other tactical units around the country.
So the term tactical athlete, we use that a lot. I'm curious sometimes if that's just if it's a term we use to feel good, and we use the example of we are an athlete, we need to treat ourselves as athletes. But is the idea of a tactical athlete, is that something that's embraced in the military as well?
Yeah, I would say it is embraced in the military. We thought it was a very common term when you get into the civilian world, or when you're dealing with kind of civil service. It's unfamiliar. It's a very unfamiliar term. It really is. We could use the term tactical athlete to the firefighters. I think they're empowered by that. They're like, we should think of ourselves a little bit like that. It's a combination of a physically, mentally, and emotionally demanding job. You need the same type of skill sets to play professional athletics, but there's a limit to your career. And also there's a limit to how much you're making money. So you don't have the luxury of, having massage tables and ice baths and all these things and living a different life that a professional athlete could do, or the infrastructure is there. So it becomes a little bit more challenging. Not all first responders have human performance facility. So that's why O2X exists. We're expeditionary in nature. It's to complement what they're already doing, and to help on the education, the training, to provide, basically the science and evidence behind what we're doing, so they understand if they're going to do something wrong, they at least understand they're doing something wrong.
So it seems to me the first step in getting someone to, improve their health and maybe get the buy-in on what you do is proving to them that they are a tactical athlete. And you kind of touched on it right there, and I have my own definition that I've professed on the show before, but what is that conversation you have with someone when you try to get them to shift their paradigm from I'm just a cop who runs a beat and pushes a black and white patrol car around all day long to no, you're a tactical athlete. What do you tell them?
Well, the example I would use for, like, say, a firefighter is, like, for one, they are, look at their injury rates, right? You can't argue about data and numbers. A large department that we work with, in the Northeast, there's roughly over 1,500 firefighters. Well, the injury rate's like 60 to 70%. And everybody knows that you're talking about 198 shoulder surgeries a year. You got lower back, you got cervical issues, you got knee issues. And then you're talking about 30% sleep apnea. You're talking about 28 heart attacks a year. You have cancer. Like every 3 weeks, a firefighter in this department gets diagnosed with cancer because of the carcinogens that they're breathing in on these things. So it's quite alarming. There's not much convincing because they know there's a quite a health crisis, and they also know the effects of their job and the impact that they've had. Probably the tougher guys to talk to are some of the younger guys, the new recruits that are coming in, and we all did it, right? Like we all came in very, very young and very fit. We don't need to have to worry about recovery as much, or we didn't think we did. We were able to, go out and perform and recover quick and go out and not get hurt because we were, essentially like a new elastic band. Mm-hmm. But as you got to save those guys from themselves, because what they don't see is like the injuries that are going to come, the impact of the overuse of the overhead work, or the stresses of their job. I think they've all seen things like whether it's suicide, depression, PTSD. That's all prevalent in their job, and they realize after a little bit of awareness and visibility behind those issues that they're all ears and they're 100% bought in.
So you find more that it's interesting that you find the older guys maybe are more open to your methods because they've experienced the negative side effects. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, they know they've seen their friends die. Right. They've been, plagued with injuries themselves. What I have problems with kind of educating them on, it's if it doesn't matter if you're 2 months away from a retirement or 2 years, is that, you have to, it's never too late to plant a tree. Like just because you're at the end of your career does not mean that it's over. Does not mean that we hear this very common use that say, "Oh, I wish I had this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I wish I had this when it came in." And convincing them it's not too late is a big component of what our program does. It's very approachable. I think people come in, they think we're going to put them through a special operations training program, and it is because it's a human performance program and it's science based. We have the world's best specialists come in, and there's a lot of research and data behind what we do. In that case, it is, but we're not crushing people. We're not putting people in the surf zone and throwing logs around.
You brought up a big word, sustainability, and it's something that like you mentioned, you've got to look over the course of a 30-year career, but on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis as well. So, what are your methods for maintaining momentum? And I'll use myself as an example, right? Because that's typically what the show does. I use myself as the what not to do, or what I haven't, what don't do because I did it. But we had Tony Horton on a couple episodes ago. Tony Horton, of course, from P90X and all those things, right? And he always talked. He talked in this. He had a really good moment where he talked about being, before he got to be Tony Horton, the fit guy, he was Tony Horton, the couch potato, and he was always what he called the 50-50 guy, which was 50% of the time he was 100%. Towards his health and fitness, and the other 50% of the time he was not, right? Yeah, and I laughed at that because man, that is me on most days. So how do you get people to get that sustainability and momentum, not just for 30 years, but just for the next month? Yeah.
Well, I think structuring a program that works for that person's life, first and foremost. Everybody is different. They may have a very similar job, but you have to look at what the needs analysis. What needs what do they have to perform? What do they need to do? And then, okay, let's take a step back and look at this person's life. I don't care if it's, they're married, they have kids, they're single. I mean, you have to look at, do they have equipment? Do they not have equipment? What's their time and availability? And you develop a program that's sustainable to them. There's certain things that you could, hey, listen, we all wish we could train like Olympic athletes. And people are cooking our meals or have the meals, and we have a cafeteria. But the reality is we don't have that. Not many people do have that. And so when you structure something that is achievable and that you can make small incremental steps every single day that have a large impact overall, that is, that's our approach. The small steps of, it could be something like preparing your meals, or for people that have, say, more discipline issues, you're planning your cheat meals, because realistic expectations, and this happens, some of our specialists get up there, they're winning races, they're probably fairly intimidating to the group that were there. They're like, I just don't count my grapes and almonds, I'm sorry, right? And I can empathize with that. And so to make something that's approachable and to kind of understand their lifestyle, and also understand that there's a cultural component, of police service, fire service, military service, the tactical athlete world. There's a lot of work hard, play hard type components. There's a teamwork and camaraderie. There could be big meals that they have a ton of. That's where they do all their good debriefing. Listen, we're not trying to talk people out of that. And that program would not be realistic. And there's a lot of programs out there that are like, you have to do this, you have to do that. And what we say is like, hey, we're telling you what's right, what's wrong. But we also know that you have to live your life. And, whether it's an 80-20 rule, whether it's, hey, looking at your lifestyle and structuring something that you can kind of work into, if that's right for you and we can get you to make improvements, well, that's a first step towards mastering something. So it's kind of like it definitely is a small little victories equal a big victory in the long run.
So you just mentioned the 80-20 rule, which is always, I think, a good way to frame things. And again, as I say in the intro to the show, I'm looking for force multipliers, right? The smallest things that can make the biggest impact. What are, if someone's coming into you and they buy into the idea that they need to be a tactical athlete, they're not sure where to start, but their conditioning isn't up to par. Food is kind of your general standard cop, takeout or fast food, or try to be healthy, but you're still eating on the road. Like we mistake sometimes eating healthy with having like a Chipotle burrito bowl, not the burrito. What are those three things that you would put someone on immediately? Those first three things you would do that are the biggest force multipliers to get someone on track?
Well, a big thing, Garrett, is education, because a lot of times they don't know the difference between a burrito and a bowl, and how that works. I think that there's a component of our program that is providing education and eliminating a lot of this guesswork. They're surrounded by things, especially in nutrition, like diets or fads, or like, hey, listen, food is food. There's some food that has more nutritional value than others, but let's not start labeling things here. Let's educate what are physiological impacts to eating constantly high carbs or junk food or snacks, and then let's look at that person's lifestyle. If you're looking at a police officer that's it's on the street all the time, and then he's working overtime or part time in between, well, listen, we have to, what we even do at O2X, we go through and we analyze all the places that they're surrounding. Like, okay, is 7-Eleven your number one food stop? Like, it's not Whole Foods, it's 7-Eleven. Okay, well, we'll take a look at that. Like, what are your common stops that are there? Oh, this is around my firehouse. This is around my police station. This is where I stop. Well, let me give you, and alleviate all doubt, I will give you the cheat sheets on the bars to use, some quick fixes, some little items that you can bring to optimize energy. But to kind of get back to your question, I think there's an education component, so they understand what's right and what's wrong, or what's a better choice. Like, you can still walk into Starbucks and kind of pick a breakfast sandwich versus going and picking the yogurt parfait, which is like 40 grams of sugar in it. They don't know it. They're just sitting there, and it's like, the yogurt thing it doesn't taste as good, so it probably is better for me, right? That's the way I thought. Back in the day, I was like, well, this one tastes, this doesn't taste as good, so it's probably healthier. But it's not that. So at least we have them making better decisions to understand that I'd rather you have to eat something than not eat something, but let's make something approachable. Hey, listen, no one's sitting there making you an egg white omelet and, scrambling up things for you, or a nice Greek yogurt parfait or whatever. But let's take a look at your lifestyle. Let's take a look at the movement. Let's look at the areas you go in. Some quick things that we see, and it's really a lot of the problems that we see is that, say the hydration component. Like the number one cause of daytime fatigue is dehydration. And what I need, people aren't just drinking enough water. They're not drinking enough water. I mean, there could be difference between, say, a firefighter, a police officer, Department of Corrections, military guys that's based out in Arizona versus somebody that's in New York, right? There is a component where they don't know that they wake up, depending on what they did the day before, but they could wake up 1% to 2% dehydrated, and 2% to 3% or 3% dehydrated is the equivalent reaction time to having like 3 drinks of alcohol. right? So you kind of, so those types of components, you're like, you at the minimum, you got to wake up and have some water. You're probably going to be dehydrated, right? And then depending on your physical, your activity, your physical activity, the activity of your job, are you sitting at a desk or in your car all day? Are you sitting at the firehouse, or do you have 22 calls a day and you're constantly on the truck, off the truck, back to the house, another call, on the truck, off the truck? Okay, so like, what could we do there? Could we pre-stage? Could we put, basically a bottle of water in your boot, so every single time you can put that in your pocket, or you put that in your turnout gear or your bunker gear, so you have it. You pre-stage, like say bars. You're like, hey, you're gonna go fight a fire for like 6 to 8 hours. Would you go run a marathon with like no fuel in you? You wouldn't do that. So then why would you go put yourself in a similar situation with a similar exertion left, if not more? We put yourself in a bad situation to underperform.
So one of the things because we have a lot of mostly cops that listen to the show, some firemen, but mostly cops. One of the things that I've done that's kind of like that in terms of staging, or what I've been calling, or what my coach had called Nutritional Go Bags. And for the cops know what a go bag is.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's basically just a Ziploc bag of beef jerky, almonds or cashews, a protein shake, a bottle of water, and hopefully some fruit or something like that, something sustainable. But those things that if I get stuck on perimeter or at a forest fire or any of those other things that can be delayed, hours and hours, crime scene, that sort of stuff, I have that with me, and I not only am I not dipping my energy, but I'm not then rushing off to McDonald's because I'm starving, at the end when I get cleared from that assignment. But it's interesting about hydration. I didn't know that had such a huge impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, think about most people's days, and, sometimes water is not a big part of it, or at least even a focus. And it's hard because if you don't feel thirsty, maybe some people don't drink water.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like you got to get ahead of it. By the time you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated. By the time you feel hungry, well, your blood sugar's already dropped. So, I mean, to try to get ahead of these things, to try to understand about blood sugar stabilization, to understand, hey, listen, you're trying to keep yourself in optimum energy. You're trying to keep where your muscles replenished, and you're burning fat and you're feeling good, right? Mm-hmm. You're eating too many carbs. You're sitting there, not doing enough activity. Okay, now that spikes. Well, what's that going to do? Well, that's going to give you a big high, and it's also going to give you a big low. And most people sit there during the day, and they're just kind of bouncing consistently between the highs and the lows, and the highs and the lows, and their energy's all over the place. So, like you mentioned, like those types of tips, whether it's buying a sack of Oat Mega bars, or pre-staging, so buying some fruit during the day, or some cheese sticks, making your meals in the beginning, making like quick little snacks that you can take with you. Mm-hmm. That stuff is going to make a big difference. And it also, we all have, we get hungry, it's like we kind of make some bad decisions, right?
Yeah.
You're like, all right, it's kind of like, I guess maybe we may say the same thing about drinking. I don't know,
Right.
Yeah. But that type of stuff, just pre-plan. And when you're really hungry and you're driving by a McDonald's, you're less likely to go by.
Yeah. So, do you guys prescribe, or do you prescribe to a particular diet, or is it more just about moderation?
No, we don't. We basically say quality. We stand away from the whole term diet, because it just has a stigma to it. Like, hey, all right, dieting sounds like some brutal thing that we have to do. It sounds like you're doing something because you have to, because you're overweight or you're not in control. So it's like, hey, listen, we're not looking at diets. We're basically, hey, listen, let's meal planning performance here. It all comes back down to eating food, real food. And that's what we tell people. It's like all these things that are out there, it's like what it all comes back to is eating real food. And real food gets back to quality, quantity, and timing. So you start with high quality foods if you can, right? Like that's what you want to start with. The quantity of food you eat. Think about your activity levels. Think about what you need to do, what the demands on your body are. Is this a recovery day? for maybe some people that are in the more higher fitness levels, like, hey, they're on a periodization program. This is my recovery day. What do I should be structuring my plate slightly different than on maybe an aerobic day or an anaerobic day or a max strength day. So I should be thinking through all these things. Then just think about your daily activity level. Like, how many times am I going to eat today? Like, am I going to get a chance am I going to be in the car for 14 hours? What's the likelihood? Hey, this is for the police officers, if there's something going on, like, hey, listen, there's a reason, there's an elevated maybe risk today. There's a higher risk for, maybe some contingency to happen, or I'm going to have to work longer hours. Well, let's forecast that, and let's plan for those types of things. So the quantity that you're going to need, and then the timing that you're going to have it. Essentially, what are those triggers? What are those reminders of when you should be fueling? Like I said before, usually by the time you're thirsty or hungry, you're kind of too late.
So it sounds like planning is a real strong emphasis on success, and that's a huge component of it, right? And that's not a surprise, I don't think, to anybody that you have to plan in order to be successful, because if you're not planning, it's luck, right? I guess that's the difference between luck and success, or luck and work, is that you fall face first into luck, but you plan for success. So what are the things you recommend, or that you encourage people to do to help them with this is going to sound silly maybe, the planning to plan? How do you work that in your day? What are the specific things people can do around planning? Is it, whatever it is, either apps or journaling, or, I don't know, is there working with the family? How is that? Because that's a struggle for everybody.
It is. It's always good. I mean, you said journaling, and this kind of ties a little bit into planning. Not that this is a requirement. If people are disciplined enough to even just write down what they eat for 3 days in a row, like everything. What did they eat and drink for 3 days in a row? What a lot of people notice is that it varies. Even like the calories, it varies. I noticed this about myself in the military, is that I would, when it came to Monday, when it came to like basically Thursday or Friday, Saturday, I definitely had some cheat meals. I probably ate more than I needed or should have, which happens on the weekends. Sunday, I started thinking about the meals I needed to plan. I'm like almost feeling like a little bit of penance, like I need to do some penance, or for like how many cheat meals I had, or how many extra buffalo wings I had, or whatever it was.
Right.
And then I would restrict. I wasn't even putting enough calories in to keep my energy levels up on, like, say, Monday or Tuesday. Like, I just wasn't putting enough in. Wednesday, I would probably be, back to exactly where I needed to be. Maybe Thursday, exactly where I needed to be. And then I'd go back on Friday. I'd probably go heavy on the calorie side. So I didn't realize, but obviously we're doing a lot of physical and rigorous work on, like, every training day. Like, we're still Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, but I wasn't optimizing my energy. And if I didn't write that all down, I wouldn't have noticed that there was a difference. Fundamentally, I would say, I went out to eat over the weekend, and I drank some beers, and so I clearly wasn't as doing everything I needed to do. But I also didn't realize that I was like calorie restricting. I was restricting the amount of I wasn't eating enough food to optimize energy. So, you brought up journaling. I actually think it's not a bad thing. Just write down what you ate for 3 consecutive days. You can do it for a week. That's great. Recognize on how many what you would call, like, say, cheat meals, or the ones that you were like, hey, and why did those happen during those days? Well, I hit McDonald's here. I use McDonald's as an example because, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking, hey, somebody's in their car, they got to get a quick meal, and they see something there, like a fast food restaurant. Hey, I cheated here, here, and here. Why did that happen? It might give you a little bit of insight into your lifestyle. It might give you a little insight into maybe some challenges with your job that come up, and they're probably the same every week. And like, now we can start talking about how to offset that stuff. I know everybody who listens to this podcast is going to be really busy, and they're tactical athletes. They're working. They have challenging, difficult jobs. We're a police officer, or firefighter, military. So, the pre-planning is important. If they can find time to prep meals for the week. For me personally, I spend a lot of time on Sunday. Not a lot of time, but I'll spend 2 hours on a Sunday, kind of pre-planning my meals. And I don't get overly complicated with it, but if you're making salads for the week, or you make one big salad and it's already done, well, you're actually saving. People would argue and say 2.5 hours is a lot to spend, or 2 hours or an hour and a half is a lot to spend, but you're going to spend twice as much time during the week trying to figure out what you're going to eat, or figure out that you're hungry, or changing your schedule because you have to go somewhere to buy some food. So it actually becomes a time saving, because I'm up early when we do training courses. This week, for example, I'm like up every day at like 5, and I'm out the door by 5:30. I made my breakfast every morning. Like I made like little, I took like an egg or a muffin, like a cupcake type of, or muffin pan, and I put, I made like 8 different egg souffles, and I put some vegetables in them, and then I was good all week. I can take 2 of those every single day. I'm getting like 5 or 6 eggs. I get some vegetables. I got some fat in there, and I'm having a cup of coffee. I'm drinking water on the way in, and then that just saves me time all week long, and I feel like I'm more effective. But that was just one little simple thing that I did. It took literally, 5 minutes to prepare and 20 minutes in the oven, and then I'm good. And then the rest of the, other meals like the salads. Once again, if you don't have access to a cafeteria or chow hall, then you have that, salads pre-made. I think the hardest thing sometimes is getting protein and finding protein. I mean, you can go to food stores now and just, if you don't want to like sit there and cook things up, or make chicken, or get tuna fish, or get a piece of fish, or have some lean protein. If you don't want to do any of those things, then, well, you can go to a supermarket now, and almost every supermarket has those things pre-cooked. You might pay a little bit more money for it, but once again, you're not eating out, and you can kind of prep all that protein for the week, and you have everything lined out. Like you said, we talked earlier about fruit. I always have some bars on me, and I just try to pack as much food on me as possible, when I can, and when I leave for the day, because I know that I'm working for, 10, 11 hours. And when I come back, I might not be able to kind of go out, or, if we're running one of our education sessions or training sessions, I might not get an opportunity to go to lunch. They might have some questions. They might have to do some, we're talking with people during the lunch hour. When I was in the military, it's like you don't have an opportunity to go out. Everyone knows you kind of get pulled into different meetings. So, I mean, it all comes into preparation, but it's like everybody's used to planning. As a tactical athlete, everybody's used to planning. Everybody's used to, planning missions or operations or everything. So they can kind of just apply to some of those same principles.
Do you have any specific things about meal planning that you do to make it easier to streamline that process? One thing I'm working on right now that I've found to be really helpful, but I haven't perfected it, is keeping track of what I do plan for a week, and the shopping list that corresponds to it in a Google Doc, right? And then I eventually have 4, 5, 6 weeks full worth of meals, and I can just repeat that entire list. And that seems to be again, not perfect yet, but it's going to be a huge lifesaver. Do you have anything like that you do or that you use, or do you just eat the same meals over and over?
No, I actually don't. With O2X, we have a bunch of nutrition chefs, so they're always coming up with things that are like extremely creative, and like, from one, they're easy, to they're really cheap, they're quick, and they're really effective, and they really help stabilize your blood sugar and kind of provide optimum energy. So I guess we're a little lucky with that. But we put that stuff. We have a mobile app. We have a lot of things online through our social media page at O2X. So we don't really hide any of those things. We put it out to the community so people can find those little quick tips and recipes. We do a lot of team meals for the firefighters because they want to all cook for a team of 7 or 10. So we put those out, and just lucky that we have like nutrition chefs that are thinking about tactical athletes, thinking about limited time, limited like say cheaper meals, quick meals, things like that. So we put that all out on our social media, but we have breakfast, lunch options, protein shakes. Sometimes I'll like pre-order. You can pre-order your groceries online in a lot of places, so that already has your grocery list saved. So you're kind of saving time on that one. I love doing that. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of going to the grocery store, so I'll order everything online, and then my grocery list is already saved, and I just hit repeat.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's a great idea if you have that service in your area. So one of the things I want to touch on too is the SEALs are famous for the mental stuff that it takes, right? And that seems to be where the line is drawn between a lot of other specialties, but also just kind of the people in general. That getting through something like BUD/S isn't really a physical challenge; it's a mental challenge. And that seems to be the going consensus from other SEALs we've talked to on the show and other podcasts that I listen to. And it's that mental fortitude. What do you guys teach the tactical athletes in terms of the mental strength and mental resilience, either how to build it or how to maintain it, or how to utilize it?
Yeah, well, I mean, mental performance and readiness is a huge topic. We spent a couple hours on it in our workshops. We're trying to teach people how to build resilience. I think that also we talk a lot about mindsets, like fixed and growth mindset. I don't know if you guys have talked about that on your show before.
We touched on it. Yeah, the book by Carol Dweck, right, and stuff like that. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so it really is understanding that be able to effectively set goals, to kind of hold yourself and others accountable, to be able to focus on not only the things that you're good at, but the things that you're being real with yourself and focus on some of your weaknesses. The growth mindset is really huge. Visualization, thinking how you want things to go. I think self-regulation is another thing. It's like these things are becoming, and maybe in the SEAL teams or when people are performing at high levels, it's an unconscious competence, right? There's these things that they just do, maybe not even recognize that they actually do them, mm-hmm. right? Like breathing is a big one, to be able to self-regulate, to understand on a tactical level, and then also chronically when you're in a high stress situation, and to be able to effectively breathe. Like, what do I need to accomplish right now? What is the next step? Not getting overwhelmed by these huge monumental tasks and kind of breaking things down into little small pieces. Whether it's, I think those factors are really, really important. It helps focus. It helps deliver focus. It helps reinstill why you're motivated for things. I don't know if I think the SEAL teams are, it's a self-selecting group. You get a lot of people that aspire to do that, and I think that people that are not 100% committed, they get weeded out pretty quick, because you definitely have to find your motivation and know why you're doing something, why you care about this. If you're passionate about it, you're truly committed to it, you really care about what you're doing, you have focus. It takes a lot of discipline to come up with a plan to prepare. Like, preparation helps, but you can't, I think, help out some people that have gone to training before, and a lot of it's like they try to prepare for everything, and you just have to have confidence in yourself that whatever comes at you, that you'll be able to adapt to it. You'll be able to kind of trust yourself, trust your previous training, that you will kind of persevere through whatever gets thrown at you.
What are some of the mistakes? What are some of the mistakes that tactical athletes make in their training or in their nutrition?
Well, one is probably not thinking anything about the mental side. That would probably be the biggest one. I think it's progressive to think about mental performance and to think about training in that way, to understand that it doesn't matter how high quality or high performer you are, stress affects everybody differently. That zone that we're trying to get everybody to operate in all the time, it requires a certain level of activation, a certain level of stress to get into that zone. So not all stress is bad. I mean, stress is where your mind and body truly adapt and grow. We stress our muscles, to then recover. Well, they perform. That we're advancing that. So to kind of think through, the way you would think of stress in your body, you'd also think of stress in your mind too. So there's a certain level of activation to kind of get you in the zone to perform at high levels, and then recognize that when you are overly stimulated, that it also could lead to underperformance, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you're understimulated, that could also lead to underperformance. That which is understimulated would be like what? Complacency, right? So we're talking about high levels of performance. To be able to have the right amount of stimulus to focus on mental performance, I think is something that we could, it's new, it's unique, focus on breathing, focusing on managing stress. I'd say tactical athletes as a whole, focusing on your thrive component and building resilience is something that not a lot do. A lot of them, everybody focuses on the physical fitness aspect, which is fine. But a lot of mistakes that we see is that people that are overtraining, right? There's like overreaching and overtraining. Like overreaching, your body might be at a stress state. You continue to stress yourself. You dip down onto that suboptimal performance, and you can kind of pop back up and recover. But then when you're overtraining, you're already in a stress state, and you drive yourself down far. It's hard to recover from that. So to prevent overtraining, to understand the value of a rest day and recovery, and then I'd say the importance of nutrition is a big component, and the number one is sleep. We weight our pillars all the same. Our eat, sweat, and thrive. Eat, sweat, and thrive is our methodology at O2X. Eat being nutrition, sweat being conditioning, thrive being sleep, stress, and resilience. And we weight them all the same. However, I would say sleep, if I had to weight one any more than the other and say what's the most important, like you got to nail the sleep, to understand, the impacts of it physiologically, when you're not getting sleep and, when you are getting amount of sleep and how that affects performance is critical. Some of the tactical athletes, they may be traveling between time zones and understanding the effects of that. Working night shift, understanding your circadian rhythm and understanding, hey, what are the effects of say, my work schedule, my 24 hours on, 24 hours off, or whatever that may be. Building good habits, I would say building good habits of and a mindset of making sleep a priority and saying, hey, this is job preparedness for me. If I make sleep a part of job preparedness and understand that this is a very critical function, just like a surgeon would. You don't want a surgeon to be operating on, like no sleep, while they're performing a very intricate operation. And the same goes for tactical athlete space. There's certain things you just can't do about. I get it. You got shift work. You got to pull other shifts. You take advantage of it. So you just got to get it when you can. If you got to take naps, that's recommended to do that. But there's a certain amount of sleep and there's a certain amount of REM that you need to properly recover, have the right amount of cognitive function, perform at high levels, simply put.
Excellent. So, Adam, where can people learn more about what O2X does, where they can maybe find out if they're able to attend a seminar, bring a seminar to their department, or learn from you if they're just not in your area?
Yeah, so that you can go to O2X.com. So that's O as in like oxygen or VO2 max. So O2X.com, on there we have a list of our workshops that are coming up. Most of them are filled right now, but you also can outreach for bringing a workshop to your department. We work across the country. We're all across North America, so feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to come out there and do a face-to-face or answer any phone calls or emails that you have. So they can contact at info at O2X.com and reach out to us directly. Go to our website and find out any details they want. And go to our social pages as well. So we have on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Where are those? Where do they? Are you just at O2X?
At O2X, yep.
And you mentioned a mobile app. How do we track that down? Is that in iTunes?
It is in iOS and Android, but it is a subscription model. So sometimes a huge department cannot put everybody through the workshop. Completely understandable. They can reach out to us at info@o2x.com, and we can kind of get them set up with the right structure. Because clearly, there's 4,000 police officers. We're not going to put them all through the workshop, nor is there, a funding line for that. But what we could do is put a bunch of ambassadors through, start chipping away at the rest of the department, getting people through our training course, and then put everybody on the mobile app, which has 24/7 reach back to our specialists and answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. Adam, thanks for being on the show. Adam Reau of O2X.com, or of O2X. O2X.com is your website. Thanks for being here, man. I think there's a lot of good information. That sleep. We've had your friend and my friend, Dr. Kirk Parsley, on the show, who has beaten that into us about the importance of that. And I personally can't agree more about how much that and shift work plays a role in our performance and our attitude, our mental health, all those things.
Hey, thanks, Garrett. I appreciate it. And so really, it's all the, the first responders and tactical athletes out there. We feel lucky that, we're getting out there and training the heroes that are protecting us every day. So just want to thank everybody that's out there, keeping up the good fight.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam, for being on. All right, thanks for listening to The Squad Room. If you like what you heard today, if you got something out of the conversation, please consider leaving a review on iTunes. I read each and every one of them, but more importantly, it really helps spread the word about the show. At least so I've been told. If you heard something you know a friend or a loved one needs to hear, please tell them about the show. You can go to thesquadroom.net and email this episode directly to them. To keep up to date, you can text The Squad Room to 44222 to get signed up for our mailing list directly from your phone. Not while you're driving, of course, but maybe you need to pull over and text The Squad Room to 44222. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at The Squad Room, or on Facebook. And if you want to reach out, ask a question, start a conversation, email is garrett@thesquadroom.net. That's Garrett with 2 R's, 2 T's. Lastly, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Audible.com. With over 180,000 titles in their inventory, Audible has hundreds of audiobooks that apply to us. If it's a slow shift, a long commute, audiobooks are a great way to continue your education after, of course, you've listened to The Squad Room. To get a free, nothing, no strings attached, free 30-day trial and a free, no strings attached audiobook of your choice, go to audibletrial.com/The Squad Room to sign up. All right, it's crazy out there, people. Until next time, take care of each other and stay safe.